This week's episode of PokeClass is sponsored by Collector's Cash, your number one place to go for all your single cards and sealed products. Make sure you check them out after the show at www.collectorscash.com. Hey everyone, Dan here, and welcome to episode 110 of PokeClass, where I'm going to be doing a mini report and analysis kind of merged into one, as I've already reviewed the deck that I played at the tournament I want to cover, but there are some major changes to both its place in the metagame and the way it works thanks to the addition of our newest set, Plasma Freeze. So here's the situation I'm in at the moment. Point one is that I'm not going to be able to make the UK National Championships this year, thanks to it being announced quite late and me being on holiday, or vacation for those of you in the US, while it is on. This is kind of annoying, but I'm going to be in America, so I'm definitely not complaining. The second point is that I'm nowhere near to a Worlds invite to try hard at Battle Road since I haven't been to too many tournaments this year, and this was going to be my last tournament of the season until after Worlds. So basically, I wanted to get a feel for a deck that was a little bit different, as I wasn't going to be shelling out for plasma cards as they come out in tins when I start playing again later on in the year. This led me to a deck that I've seen my brother play a lot, and he has always done relatively well even though he's played it within 3 different formats. The deck was Klinklang, and in theory, I reckon it had a really good matchup against Plasma. Unfortunately, I didn't have much testing time due to multiple different things, but I knew I had to choose between one of the 2 versions of Klinklang, both with good and bad points. Both versions obviously use both PlasmaKlang and Shift Gear together to give you a universal field, but the first version focuses on purely metal attackers, namely Cobalion and Cobalion EX, and the other version does feature Cobalion EX, but also features both Darkrai and Keldeo to give you more attacking options and easier ways to retreat, among other stuff. Honestly, my testing consisted of 2 main games, both with Keldeo and Darkrai version of Klinklang, leaning towards a more classic Klinklang strategy of max potions, lots of healing and energy moving. So these 2 games were both against a classic Plasma deck, with the first resulting in me getting donked, and then the second in me narrowly missing out on the win. However, I wasn't running the normal Cobalion, which quickly went into the list straight after that very game. What I'm getting at is that those 2 games summed up well what I thought of the matchup, that the deck can stand its ground against Plasma decks as long as you can not only survive the donk, but stabilize after their very quick start. So with extremely minimal testing, I actually decided to run the pure metal version of the deck, as I felt that had an even stronger Plasma matchup, since if you get rid of their Kyurems with a nicely timed Noble Victories Cobalion attack, then you should be good to go for the rest of the game. The reason I decided against the use of Darkrai and Keldeo is because they obviously can't make use of Plasma Steel and rely heavily on the 4 Prism energy in the deck that can seriously be messed with thanks to either Thundurus' second attack or hammers from stuff like Darkrai players. If any of you are interested, then here is the list that I used. Overall, the list was based on as much consistency as possible, with enough attackers to keep some early game pressure on with Cobalion EX, as well as an out to Kyurem, thanks to a double regular Cobalion appearance. One thing I have really liked to change in the list is taking out the computer search in favour of a dowsing machine, due to the fact that I ran Max Juniper and 2 Ultra Ball, meaning that key resources could be hitting the discard pile way too quickly in the beginning of the game. I also felt that this could help to get those double Klinklangs out a lot quicker and give me further options such as getting another Super Rod back from the discard to keep more attackers and Klinklangs in play. This ultimately did hurt me in the long run of the tournament, as computer search wasn't really used for anything remotely helpful, and I desperately kept finding things I needed to squeeze out wins in my discard pile, but I'll go into that a little bit more detail when it comes to the mini report. So without more to say about the list just yet, let's get into the mini report. The tournament was held at Chimera Store in Nottingham, which is always a great place to play, and featured around 26-ish masters with 5 rounds and a top 4 cut. Now 5 rounds cutting to top 4 is always going to be difficult to cut, as you need to go at least 4-1 to have a chance, and you may still even miss out. However, it was how it was, and we got started. Now round 1 was a frustrating one, as I was playing against Darkrai, going first with the perfect turn 1 hand, as I was able to grab resources and had a turn 2 PlasmaKlang to really lay the hurt straight away. So I take my first turn, and then I'm welcomed with an even luckier situation where my opponent just has to attach and then pass. So all the signs were looking good, so I heavy ball into my deck, searching for one of my 2 PlasmaKlangs, and I come to the upsetting conclusion that they're both prized. Now this makes a great start to turn it into a fairly horrible one, as I'm lacking energy for the perfect start, which my PlasmaKlang would really have helped out greatly with in slowing my opponent down big time. From here, my opponent only needs to manually attach to power up his Darkrai, and I'm in big trouble. However, by the time he's sitting at just a single prize, I actually managed to take my first 2 prizes on a Darkrai, and one of them is a PlasmaKlang, meaning I can get it out and hopefully make a comeback. All I need to do is draw into one of my remaining max potions to heal off a bench Pokemon to stop him taking a catcher laser prize. Unfortunately, I don't manage to draw it and he's able to junk hunt for the 2 resources he needs to get the last KO, and I end up losing a very tough and kind of frustrating game. So I'm on to 0-1 but can still make cut if I win out, and the field from there is actually looking kind of strange. It looks as though there are many rogue decks here today, including Empoleon Dusknoir and even Cobalion Terrakion, with just one Plasma deck in the entire field. And now this tournament was just a couple days after the release of Plasma Freeze, so maybe I tried to predict the format a little bit too early, but let's take a look at my next game. And this one was actually quite scary, as he was playing a Plasma Crobat deck with Toxicroak as well, and without Keldeo this could get very messy if he gets set up. Unfortunately for him, things don't go smoothly and I managed to get a turn 2 shift gear Klinklang out so that I can go ultra offensive and take out everything before it evolves. It was an unfortunate game for him, but he was a great guy who was a fan of the show, so that was awesome. My next game was against Johnny Hall, and he happens to be the only Plasma deck there, so I was ready for an enthralling game against a deck I really wanted to play against. The start was kind of odd, as I had to Skylar for Tropical Beach after getting rid of 2 catches on the first turn, which was going to hurt when trying to keep those Kyurem under control. This also ends up helping him out, as he is able to Chorus for a low amount of cards and then use the beach to set up after his also poor start. From here I do manage to get a turn 2 PlasmaKlang, which means he is locked out very early on and is forced to attach to his Kyurem via Raid and Knuckle while I build up enough energy on the board. There is a scary moment where he catches up my PlasmaKlang to take it down, but misses out on the laser to get back into the game. My next turn is then huge, as I get a second PlasmaKlang and a shift gear into play, which means I can get whatever I want going while being able to take a single Klinklang going down. From here it goes really badly for him, as he keeps missing the lasers he needs for big KOs, and I actually use Heavy Bullet from PlasmaKlang to take down a Kyurem and hit a crucial flip to add 20 to another benched Kyurem, bringing it in range for a KO no matter what he does. This pretty much seals the game, and he scoops as his third Kyurem is prized and all he's got is EXs. So this is how my deck is supposed to go. My faith in Klinklang being able to take down Plasmas is backed up, and I go into the next game hoping for Darkrai. My fourth game is against Ross Gilbert, who I'm sure you've heard of before, and he is playing the Cobalion Terrakion Landorus EX deck that I was talking about earlier. This was a big problem for me, as I found out rather quickly that a fully set up Cobalion from Noble Victories was going to slow me down to a halt, as I only ran 4 Switch rather than Keldeo. At the start I do manage the turn 2 PlasmaKlang, which means my deck is staying consistent, but in doing so I am forced to Juniper away my Super Rod, which eventually becomes extremely troubling. The game then pans out as expected, him not being able to use his Landorus EX, which I'm definitely happy about. However, the Terrakions are always staring me down and I focus my attention on those, but it turns out Cobalion is actually my trouble, as he can just lock my active there with Iron Breaker, unable to attack. This means I have to waste all of my switches very quickly and energy gets way too thin for me to keep up, and with my only Super Rod gone, I just ran out of steam before he did. A very creative deck and an interesting game, but on to 2-2. And my last game was against Derek Wheatley, who always turns up with creative and interesting deck lists and choices, and today he is playing Garchomp with Landorus EX. This game didn't worry me too much, as I didn't play any special energy, but my PlasmaKlang was next to useless thanks to Garchomp. I do manage to stay on top most of the way here, however, thanks to switching to a more traditional Klinklang strategy, using my max potions at key attacking times to always get the 2 shots on his Garchomps before they knock my Cobalions out. Eventually the prize trade goes in my favour thanks to the constant healing, and I come out on top with the win and finish at 3-2. So overall 3-2 doesn't sound that great, but with a little extra luck I think I could have made it into cup, but that's how Pokemon goes sometimes. The thing that did let me down the most, however, was my choice of deck, as there weren't that many Plasma decks out there at all, which I felt I had a pretty decent matchup against. In the end it was Empoleon Dusknoir versus Darkrai in the final, where Darkrai came out on top, using Plasma Absol to amazing effect and hitting for absolutely huge damage. So in conclusion, I felt that Klinklang really does fit well in an environment filled with Plasma, which may be true when it comes to Nationals, but it was a bit premature on my part. The deck functions really well, and the max potions in there really made sure that you could stay ahead in the prize race after getting pummeled for the first few turns. I actually really enjoyed playing the deck and will recommend it to someone who wants to do well at Nationals if they put the time into the matchups and don't want to shell out for Plasma stuff just yet. The only thing I would worry about is Darkrai with Absol. Absol having just 100 HP is nice since you can KO it with Cobalion EX, but they have a lot quicker access to Absol than you do to Cobalion, which does cause problems. If I were to change my list at all after the tournament, again 10, Dowsing Machine would have been amazing, especially in the game against Ross, since getting some crucial resources back is vital in late game situations. I'm not sure still about the Klinklang count, as running just 2 PlasmaKlang did hurt me straight away in the first game, but running 3 Max Potion really opens up the opportunity for you to go old school Klinklang style in matchups that don't require an EX blocker. And I think that will pretty much wrap up episode 110 of PokeClass, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I tried something a little bit different this time by going heavily into my list and choices for a certain tournament, even if it was just a Battle Roads, but I think it offers a nice learning experience for people either playing the deck or thinking about it in the future. So before I go, I just want to take the time to ask you all to suggest in the comments what you would like to see in the next few PokeClass episodes, as I'm kind of running thin on ideas right now and would love to hear what you want to see, so go ahead and do that to get the content that you want next week. So yeah, get on that, please hit that like button if you did enjoy the video, and also make sure that you subscribe if you happen to be new to the channel for more Pokemon videos. Other than that, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Have a great week.